Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 6 of What If Naruto Was Hybrid Devil Prince. If you guys enjoy this what if, and want to see part 7 of it, comment down below, and let me know. The like goal for this video is 200 likes. So like this video, to let me know that you're interested in this series, and you want the next part. And go ahead, and check out other what ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. So, what in all the 666 layers of the abyss are you of all people doing here? Jiraiya seemed appalled. You do realize who I am, right? We've already established that by me calling you Iro Tenchi and your reaction to it. You are the pervy angel Jiraiya. There was a long pause. My godfather. Yes, and where are we? Adult's clothing shop. I don't get it. Why are you here of all places? Naruto looked his godfather up and down. For one thing, you're dressed like a tourist, so you couldn't be planning to have this place sell your books. For another, this is Kuo Town, not heaven. This place is owned and operated by devils. Why are you here, lingerie store or not? Jiraiya deadpanned. You really don't know what this place is, do you? No. Rainer and Naruto watched it. The man proceeded to tear his hair out by the fistful. Oh come on. This is like the best place to do research in the whole of Japan. This is main Japan branch of Devil's Victoria's Secret. The best models come from all over the underworld to this place, and then from here they go all over the human world to get their pictures taken at famous places. And the more adventurous ones head across the street to Cameron's Paradise. The restaurant across the street. Fuck, did Minato tell you nothing? I came here to look for you, assuming you might come here to see the girls, and get some research on the side, but still. You didn't even know that Kuo Town is all but devil-owned for a reason. The second largest erotic clothing brand, and the fifth most popular supernatural strip club this side of the underworld are here. Naruto stared at his godfather for a long moment. Then he decided that, caught red-handed or not, he was going to enjoy this opportunity. So he did what he did best. And what he did best was make people like Jiraiya blow a fuse or two. Naruto raised one eyebrow, his voice the definition of uncaring boredom, and Jiraiya deflated. When I saw you there, being straddled by such a gorgeous girl, I thought my quest, to turn my favorite little imp into a pervert, had succeeded, but now I see the truth. You did follow after your horrible mother, didn't you? You, anti-pervert. Naruto smiled evilly. The aptly named Iro Tenchi collapsed to the ground, hysterical sobbing escaping him, his spirits broken. Why Kushina, why do you hate me so? What did I ever do to you? I only wanted Minato and Naruto to enjoy being perverts, is that so bad? Rainer blinked, her pleasure forgotten completely, and slipped off Naruto's lap. Who is that? He's called Jiraiya. He's what you might call a non-archangel. He's as strong as one of the archangels, but there are certain things that prevent him from being that. As in? Do you need me to tell you? He's fallen from lust so hard his wings haven't even realized he's not in heaven anymore. Well, actually he's from the same pure village as Kalawerner, so he technically can't fall. Interesting. Rainer muttered. But if he's so powerful, why is he so pathetic? Instantly he was on his feet again, and in a great explosion of smoke he was standing atop a giant frog. His arms stretched out to each side as he took a wide stance. Behold! Jiraiya bellowed as an explosion came out of absolute nowhere centered directly behind him. He comes down the golden staircase, a hush falls upon the gathered mortals. Do they know him? Have they heard of his glory? Yes. They have heard, and they have seen too. For no, I am the great Jiraiya. Second born of Amiel and Turiel, given life by the word of God in the great hidden village of Konohagakure. I have slain dragons and split seas. The very ground trembles at my name, from my hands 1,000 epics have been wrought, and all the war. Hey Jiraiya-san. Why did you summon me here? The large green and orange toad asked, somewhat annoyed. Silence. Jiraiya remained, standing stock still on the giant toad's head as a cold wind blew behind him. Those assembled would have sworn on their lives that a lone cricket chirped, filling the silence for the span of a single second. And then a vein on Jiraiya's forehead bulged obscenely. Did you have to interrupt me, goddammit? Do you know how many times I act to ally get the chance to introduce myself properly? Rainer's and Naruto's hair was blown back by the force of the shout, although their sweat drops, epic in size, remained firmly in place. Naruto turned to Rainer, his tone casual. So, yeah. Lust, pride, and is stupidity a sin? I forget. Rainer nodded sagely. As Azazel-sama always said it was. The toad turned his head back to glare at Jiraiya. I'll have you know I was having a perfectly enjoyable nap when you summoned me. 10,000 apologies if I've offended you. Now, if there's nothing else, I would like to get back home. I'm sure that Ma and Pa are looking for me. Jiraiya's jaw clenched. Fine. Go. In an explosion of smoke the toad was gone, leaving Jiraiya standing there in front of them, looking downtrodden. The old angel absently brushed himself down, as if removing odd specks of dirt. His mood had, fortunately, been spoiled. So Jiraiya, you were looking for me? Or you were here for your Naruto held up his hands for air quotes. Research. Ahem, well, your mother contacted me and asked that I find you. I suppose I'm lucky you're here. My search was far less exhausting than it could have been. However, I must ask. If you weren't here for the girls, why are you here in Kuo? Naruto crossed his arms. I came here to lie low. I figured no one would be stupid enough to start shit with the sisters of two of the Satans, so it seemed like a decent place to stay. Of course things have been far from peaceful since I came here, but you wouldn't know that, would you? He frowned. I suppose it's in your job description, to bring me back to Mom. That would be correct. There was a tense moment in which Angel and Devil hybrids stared each other down. Reiner looked between them feeling nervous. He was someone who Naruto said was on a level equal with Michael in terms of power. And they were just staring each other down. It was like an old-fashioned Western duel. 5 minutes passed. Naruto's left eye twitched. Jiraiya grunted. 10 minutes. Naruto scowled. The perverted Angel's eyes narrowed. Fine, you've got a deal, brat. But if this ever gets back to your mother, I'm going to drop you in Tartarus. Jiraiya muttered. And you've got 2 weeks. 2 weeks? Yeah. Since she's going to be married then. Naruto nodded. That's fine with me. Reiner glanced between them, completely stumped. Would someone please tell me, what the hell is going on? Her mate nodded. This is how it works. My mother has hired Jiraiya to find me and bring me home. I don't want to go home, and Jiraiya sympathizes with me. Therefore he is willing to offer me a deal. If I can get myself into a situation that warrants him calling off the chase, then he will forget he found me here. What kind of situation is he talking about? She nudged him. Is he suggesting you get in trouble or get yourself discovered? In a way. What way? In a contest kind of way. If I can seduce Ria's Gremory in less than 2 weeks, then Jiraiya will forget he ever found me. But then of course, since Rias will be getting married directly after that, the very act of seducing her will reveal my location. But at least, if this works out, the likelihood of my mother forcing me to return to the estate is most gone. Reiner shifted uncomfortably. And if you didn't agree to the terms? Jiraiya smiled. Then I would drop everything, and drag him back to his mother right now. She scowled. And you're strong enough to do that? The man shrugged. Well, let me just say that Naruto here is probably the most powerful being in the world besides Great Ri. But that's only his potential. He doesn't actually have nearly enough control over his power, and if he used that much of it at one time, he would likely kill himself. I, on the other hand, am one of the most powerful angels alive, second only to Michael. And I've had a long time to train my abilities. Naruto may have raw power on his side, but when push comes to shove, I'm just strong enough to bring him down. Is that true, Naruto-kun? Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, I was planning on seducing Ria's Gremory anyway, so this isn't exactly a huge change of plans. And seeing how she's going to be getting married soon, just like Sono already told us, seriously attempting to win her over would guarantee that I'll be discovered within the next few weeks. Jiraiya looked between them, his jaw sagging. Wait, you were already going to try and seduce her? Naruto nodded. Why, you scammed me. Naruto paused for a few moments and then nodded again, smiling happily. Yes, I did. You thought I would be against it and suggested it because of your own perverted tendencies. Therefore it was easy for me to agree to something that I was planning on doing anyway. He chuckled. Looks like I win this round, Iro-tenshi. We both know you always keep your word. Damn you, brat, I'm fucking ecstatic that you were going to do it anyway, but don't think you're off the hook for tricking me this time. I'll find a way to get back at you. Sure you will. But, in the meantime, can I ask you something about events in the underworld? Jiraiya, now thoroughly annoyed, huffed and looked away. Why should I? Reiner glanced to the side where Naruto seemed hard-pressed for a convincing answer. You owe me for this, Naruto-kun. She muttered something rather inappropriate under her breath and walked back into the changing booth. A moment later she walked back out. Both men were looking at her as she walked across and deposited something in Jiraiya's hand. There, now you start talking before I start punching. Jiraiya looked down, blinked, and then grinned like a kid after his dad gave him a porn magazine. He quickly folded up the gift and shoved it into his pocket, giant shit-eating grin still in place. Well. Now that I've been provided with proper motivation, what was it you wanted, my dear godson? Naruto raised an eyebrow at his mate, and then turned his attention back to Jiraiya. I would like to know how Mom's relationship with Surzich's is. Seeing how I'll be doing you know what with his little sister and all. Oh? Jiraiya hummed in thought before answering as best he could. Listen, kid. Your mom is the second most worthy devil in the house of Lucifer. And Surzich's is the head of the new devils. Not to mention he kind of usurped your mother's power if you think about it. They were never on the best of terms politically, but back when your mother and Surzich's were younger they were great friends. Only recently have their ties become broken. If I'm honest, I would say that relations aren't good, but given the opportunity they could get much better. Before the war, the House of Gremory and the House of Lucifer were pretty close. Aha, so theoretically, my courting Rias would be a benefit to Mom. As long as you do it right. Jiraiya grinned. If you can actually get that girl to fall for you, it would be a big boon to both houses. The only problem politically that you have to worry about is Riser. The whole reason for this marriage is pure blood devil children, and your blood isn't exactly pure. Naruto understood that well enough. That was the same problem he'd been thinking about already. He might be able to get Rias to fall for him, hell, it might even be easy. And he was sure that she would take him over that asshole of a phoenix any day. But the marriage was predicated on the idea of pure blood, and he had vampire and human added in. If he had been pure blood, then this would be easy as cake. He probably wouldn't even have to seduce her, if that was the case. She'd probably seduce him. But that was the issue. He wasn't a pure blood heir of the Lucifer line. He was a half-blood for all intents and purposes. He needed some other avenue open to break the wedding off. He glanced at Rainer thoughtfully, and then back to Jiraiya. What do you know about Riser? I met him a while ago and he was a royal asshole, but I haven't heard much of him since. Being a jerk doesn't necessarily mean he'll be easy to beat in a fight, and I need to be ready for that possibility. Not much to say early. He's a phoenix. He's not as strong physically as other houses. But he's a bit faster, he can fly better than the average devil, and most importantly he has that regeneration. Not to mention control over fire and massive pain tolerance. I honestly haven't heard much about him either. Supposedly he'd won his fair share of raiding games, but that was probably just him hiding behind his regeneration factor. Yeah. Naruto sighed. Even with a lame peerage, that regeneration would probably be the end for most challengers. Even someone quite a bit stronger than him would have a hard time landing any lasting blows. I myself would be forced to use my sacred gear of vampire powers. Jiraiya clicked his tongue in disappointment. Ah, I see you've already forgotten about your inheritance then. The blonde one still, his eyes darkening a bit. I'd rather not use those. They're still really hard to control. It's just like yokai energy. Every emotion is increased when I use it. Not to mention how aggressive I get. I don't want to kill the guy. The old angel shrugged. Guess you're right about that. Rainer turned to Naruto, her expression questioning. Your inheritance. Yeah. The powers that I have granted to me by my devil blood. They're the power of the original Lucifer. One of them, the power Jiraiya is talking about, is called Amaterasu. It's an attack that was named for the goddess that the yokai people worship. It takes the form of unquenchable black flames that will burn anything. Anything. Pretty much. Wood, flesh, stone, glass, metal, water, magic. Hell, they'll even devour other flames. But I have almost no control over them. Once I cast them out, they can't extinguish for 7 days and 7 nights. And even then I personally have to put them out. Otherwise they would burn until the end of the world. Rainer's eyes were wide with amazement. She simply couldn't believe he possessed an ability like that. But how? The flames are only usable by those who have at least half of the original Lucifer's power. No other devil in existence can use them. And even Xerxes wouldn't be able to absorb them without killing himself, probably. The problem is that they would spread. Naruto looked across at Jiraiya. I don't even know why you would suggest using them. Jiraiya shrugged. No reason real. Just thought you had more control. Maybe you need to train those abilities more. Naruto frowned. Did you forget I have several entities with power equaling that of an ultimate class devil inside me via my sacred gear? I'm going to have to train for a few hundred years to get all their power under my control. No time like the present. Yeah, later. Once I've shown myself to the world, then I'll get to work on mastering my abilities. But until then I have a sexy Grimoire princess to seduce. Jiraiya gave him 2 thumbs way up, and a lecherous grin that would have made Aphrodite blush. Now that I can't argue against. He made deep bow to Naruto and Rainer, as if he were concluding a performance of some sort, and then straightened and strolled past them. Anyway, I still have things to do, girls to peep on, and research to accumulate. I'll see you two another time. Oh, and by the way, Naruto. The blonde raised one eyebrow curiously as Jiraiya plunged his hand into his pocket and began to root around for something. After a moment he withdrew it and tossed a small object to Naruto, who caught it deftly. What is this? He asked, holding up the small vial of clear liquid. That, my boy, is an extract taken from the saliva of a succubus by the name of Lovator. It's an aphrodisiac of almost ridiculous potency. I reckon you could have the previous Lady Leviathan on your lap with a few drops of that. Feel free to use it on whoever you like, as a present of sorts. Just keep in mind that it costs a king's ransom for half of what you're holding. Naruto looked at the vial in his hands in a new light. Well, I think I can find a use for this, but you know how I am, Jiraiya. I'm not going to use this on a girl I actually like, and I don't intend to sleep with anyone I'm not interested in. Jiraiya shrugged. You never know. I guess not, Naruto admitted. A moment later Jiraiya had disappeared deep into the lingerie shop. Naruto and Rainer watched him as he left, both of them thinking along different lines, now that they were alone again. Naruto was wondering what he could actually use this on without feeling like a bastard taking advantage of someone. After all, as much as he liked to seduce girls, he wasn't about to drug them. And if there was someone he had genuine feelings for, there was no way in hell he'd use this. Rainer on the other hand was now staring at the small vial with a mischievous grin, one that she expertly hid when Naruto glanced back at her. Shall we finish up here, Rainer-chan? I suppose that's a good idea. I'll choose which outfits to buy. You wake up our devout little friend. She smirked as Naruto chuckled evilly. What is it now? Oh, I just thought of something I can use this for, if I get the opportunity. Rainer giggled and walked back to the changing room. He watched her go, his eyes following her ass as she stepped inside, and closed the curtain with a wink. Naruto sighed, smiling again, before dropping down on his haunches next to the fallen nun. She looked so cute there, unconscious with that flustered innocent look. He made him want to grab her up in a hug, and squeeze her to death. But no, he needed to restrain himself. She was a nun after all. And once, not so long ago, she was a prominent member of the church. So in this situation, restraint was called for. For now he would have to settle for Rainer's and perhaps, in the near future, Ryu's hugs. Not that those wouldn't be nice. No, of course not. It was just that they were more beautiful and sexy than cute and innocent. The two were not mutually inclusive. That being said, he was sure that Ashi could pull off beautiful and sexy in a few years, depending on her environment during that time. If she lived with him and the other girls, she was sure to lose that innocence after a while. Anyway, boy. Ashia, wake up. Naruto nudged the girl, but she didn't respond. He nudged her again, then poked her cheek with one finger. Neither seemed to have any effect. At last Naruto huffed, shook her gently, and the blonde girl blinked awake. Her face turned to the side and their eyes met. Instantly her large green orbs flew open wide, and she let out a girlish shriek, Kia. Naruto's hand slammed over his ears, and he grimaced, while Ashia seemed to teleport from the bench in front of him to the wall on the other side of the room. She plastered herself to the wall there, staring at him like he'd grown a second head. Hey? What's wrong? His hands dropped from his ears. No need to scream. It's just me. Ashia swallowed hard and nodded, peeling away from the wall and slowly approaching him. Naruto noticed that her cheeks were very red, and her eyes refused to meet his again, instead lingering around his neck and shoulders. Sorry, Naruto-san. Please drop the san, Ashia-chan. I dislike honorifics. I already told you that. She smiled hesitantly. I know, it's a habit. Meh, that's fine. Just work on it for me. After a while you'll be comfortable saying it. A sly grin made its way onto his face. Maybe if you do it long enough you could start calling me Naruto-kun. How could you like that? Ashia's face flamed red again, and she spluttered something that sounded oddly like, what? He chuckled, glancing up when he heard the dressing room curtain open again. And there she was, with a small pile of clothes in on hand, back in her usual outfit. Hey Naruto-kun, I see our little friend is awake again. So nice of her to join us in the land of the living. The blonde girl twisted around, her eyes wide, obviously half expecting to see Rainer in another revealing set of sleepwear. However, such was not the case, this time. Are we going, Rainer-san? Yep, sure are. Just got to pay for this stuff first. Then he can bug out of here. Rainer hefted the pile of lace bras, see-through panties, and full-body designs with a smug smile. See? Let's go. We still need to get something appropriate for you to wear. There's a good store down the street for that kind of thing. Okay? Naruto grinned and patted Ashia on the head. Let's go, Ashia-chan. No need to wait around here. Besides, I have stuff I need to do after this anyway. Preparations of the sexual sort, if you get what I mean. She blushed and Rainer grinned. Come on. I'm paying. Rainer darted over to take him by the arm. Lead the way, Naruto-kun. I want to get everything done as fast as we can, so I can have some alone time with you, before we go back, and Cal when her tries to get her claws into you. Ah, do you have so little faith in me? Naruto kissed her neck enticingly. Your claws are already in pretty deep. What are you worried for? Oh, nothing much. I'm actually kinda looking forward to it. She leaned into him as they started towards the checkout corner in the front of the store. I can't wait to see the look on that Gremory girl's face when she finds out who you are. I bet it will be priceless. He licked his lips. I couldn't say it better myself. The contemplative expression came over his face then. I wonder if she's a screamer. Naruto took the pile of clothing, allowing her to twine her other arm around his. We'll just have to see, won't we, Naruto-kun? Yep. Hey. Wait for me. Naruto-san, Rainer-san. Ashia cried as she caught up to them. Don't leave me behind. Some time passed, and Naruto found himself waiting as Rainer and Ashia picked out clothes. Most of it was for the younger girl, who as they quickly discovered, was quite daring when she wasn't in a lingerie shop. So far she picked out an outfit that consisted of skinny jeans, a thin black belt, blue running shoes, and a white t-shirt that said, "Free contradictions $2" on the front. Naruto loved it. Personally he wanted her to wear the one that said "Good girls never get caught," but Ashia nixed it. Rainer had one for herself now too. It was a long-sleeved black shirt that showed off plenty of cleavage and read, "Yes, I'm a bitch, just not yours." Naruto had the distinct impression she was wearing that one for him. It kinda warmed his heart a little. But other than that, he was rather bored. Not that watching Rainer was particularly boring. It was more like he had other things he wanted to do right then. He let out a sigh as his stomach rumbled loudly. For instance, biting his girlfriend in a rather private place. But that would have to wait until they had what they came here for. Mainly Ashia needed more to wear than one outfit, seeing how she would likely be here for a while, and the nun's habit wouldn't work well. Sure, it was a cute costume for her if she ever wanted to do Halloween or something, but she couldn't wear it to school, and it would draw too much attention to her in day-to-day life. Plus there was the small issue of it being really bad for her ease of movement. She'd trip over herself if she ever had to run away from something or someone. Hey Naruto-kun. He snapped out of his thoughts, and dragged his gaze away from Ashia as she searched through the clothing racks. He turned to Rainer as she walked towards him with a black t-shirt over her arm. He raised his eyebrow as she got close. Well, find another one you like. She shook her head, a wide smirk on her face. Nope, but I thought this is perfect for you. It's in English, but other supernatural people will be able to read it regardless. With that, Rainer grabbed the shirt by the shoulders and displayed it for him. What he saw made him burst out laughing with the irony of it. It was a medium-large black shirt with red flames running up the sides. And in bold red and yellow letters it said, "I know there's a special place in hell for me. It's called a throne." Naruto took it from her, his laugh dropping off and a wide grin splitting his face. He chuckled evilly for the second time that day, as he imagined just what he could do with a shirt like this. Yes, he was definitely going to get this one. There was no way in, well, to be blunt, there was no way in hell he wasn't buying it. Thanks Ra-chan, an excellent choice. Her violet eyes twinkled. I'm glad to like it. She turned her head to the side, pouting a bit as she pushed a stray lock of hair behind her ear. Do I get a reward for finding such an appropriate shirt, Naruto-kun? You bet. Well, what? The gasp escaped Rainer as Naruto was suddenly behind her, his arms wrapping around her tightly. He licked his lips hungrily and dragged her away from the populated racks. She didn't resist, merely allowing him to pull her into the shadows behind a clothing rack filled with long dresses. There she was held against the wall, Naruto's hands pinning hers by her head. Now, about that reward. He growled, leaning forward to capture her lips with his own. Rainer's eyes widened for a brief second. Then they drifted closed as the strength flowed out of her, and Naruto started to dominate the kiss. Damn, it felt so good though, letting him do this to her. She opened her mouth to him, his tongue dancing in to mingle with hers. Meanwhile his hands left hers and fell down, caressing her sides. She in turn, let hers fall onto his shoulders, linking them behind his head. More, Naruto-kun. Taking it a step further, Rainer repositioned her hands, snaking them under his shirt, her fingertips exploring his chiseled torso. Naruto broke the kiss then. Rainer mewed in protest, but there was a finger resting on her lips an instant later. Not so loud, Ra-chan. She closed her mouth and nodded, biting her lip. Red was starting to bleed into Naruto's deep blue eyes, his hunger getting the best of him. She swallowed hard as his lips parted, showing his long white fangs. Naruto. Guess his name was enough. He plunged forward and bit down, hard. Rainer gasped silently, her nails digging into his chest. And then ecstasy, drowning her in a sea of pleasure. Coherent thought deserted her briefly as he drank long and deep. Her ears picked up the rhythmic sound of him swallowing, and she felt his sharp clawed fingers raking over her sensitive breasts. Gods, she didn't even know when he'd slipped his hands under her shirt as well. Then, as soon as it started, Naruto pulled away. His eyes opened, blood red and glowing. He swallowed once more, and licked the dark droplets from his lips. Then his eyes darted to the side, narrowing as they scanned the store behind them. Wah, what is it, Naruto-kun? Why did you stop? His voice came out in a purr. We're being watched, or, at least followed. I just sensed something come close to me. It wasn't my vampire senses that picked it up though. It was a power I gained when I was an infant, something of a gift from my mother. He turned around and turned away from her. Go back to Ashia. Make sure she's alright. I'll find our little peeping Tom. Right? Reina covered her neck with her hair, and darted off to find their little blonde charge, while Naruto continued to scan the racks. Eventually he felt a presence shift on the edge of his awareness. There, yes, it was off to his left somewhere, moving through the store slowly, cautiously. Not at all like a customer. Why does this presence feel so familiar? Naruto straightened and strolled out from behind the rack, keeping an eye peeled for people he knew, all the while drawn closer to the location of the spy. He turned after a minute or so, going left and moving out of the girls' dress section and into the men's clothing area. A frown made its way onto his face as he realized he didn't see anyone. No familiar faces showed over the tops of the many clothing racks. Yet the feeling was still there. And now there was a scent too, strong and possessing an almost animal quality. Something like a kitsune, although much weaker. It too was familiar, but where did he recognize it from? It had to be someone he'd met recently. Since rarely did he meet a visitor to the Lucifer estate with this kind of scent. And even though he'd absorbed massive quantities of Yaokai energy with his sacred gear, this wasn't exactly like this. It was a distinctly devil scent. I wonder who managed to track me down. I've been keeping my presence hidden the vast majority of the time. And it's not like Sona would have me followed, would she? Nah, she's suspicious of me, but she doesn't strike me as the paranoid type. Naruto walked down the closest aisle, noting idly that it was men's pants and shorts. And it was as he reached the halfway point that his senses pinpointed the location of the spy. A small devious smile materialized, and he walked to the end of the row, turning into the next one. There he got a good look at the spy. It was a young teen girl, looking to be 14, maybe 15 at the oldest, with white hair and golden eyes. At last he understood. The presence he was feeling didn't belong to a kitsune. It originated from a former Nekomata Yaokai, one of only 2 living in the world now. Yes, standing only a few feet from him was none other than Kaneko, Rook of Ria's Gremory. And the expression on her usually expressionless face was priceless. Uzumaki-senpai, how did you know? But she caught herself just in time. She composed herself in less than 5 seconds, her lips returning to a straight line, and her eyes losing their surprise glint. Good to see you again, senpai. Naruto wasn't buying it. He knew that Rias was onto him now, one way or another. And he wasn't about to let Kaneko out of his sight. Hell no, he wasn't. The cute little girl could easily return to Rias and tell her he wasn't what she thought, possibly making it many times harder to seduce her. So, senpai, you wouldn't happen to be spying on little ol' me, would you? He asked, leaning forward. Kaneko, who was about 2 heads shorter than him, couldn't help but stutter a bit as she struggled for an answer that might dissuade him. Senpai, I was just here too. To what? Gold eyes looked away but at him as he took a step forward, hands on hips. Well, I was buying underclothes. Oh? Naruto drawled lazily, knowing that particular subject was brought up in hopes of dissuading him. And have you been to this store before? She nodded once, sharply, seeming relieved that the conversation had turned away from her spying. Yes, I have shopped here before. Naruto's eyes shifted from side to side a couple of times until Kaneko at last looked up at him. Then in turn her gaze sifted from left to right. She went pale. Well, you do know that we're in the men's section, and all the underclothes and accessories are on the 2nd floor, right? Right? Naruto smiled, deciding that he needed to tell Rainer what was going on. Then he'd come back and apprehend his cute underclassman. Couldn't have her reporting to Rias after all. He wanted no problems while he was turning that hot Reed to his way of thinking. Anyway, see you later, Kaneko-chan. He turned and started to walk away. Kaneko watched him for a long moment as he stepped away from her. Her mind was spinning. What did she do? She had to tell Haking that Naruto was a vampire. It had been brief. Barely a second, but she'd seen his fangs sinking into that other girl's throat. Seen her mouth open in a silent gasp. Then she'd attempted to flee. But she didn't get far. If she'd run, she would have been able to leave quick enough, but it might have alerted him to her presence. Although he caught onto her spying anyway. Now he was right here, and he didn't seem angry. He wasn't biting her throat out for catching him in the act. In fact, he was greeting him the same as he greeted everyone at school. Maybe this was her chance to get some real information, direct from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Wait, senpai. Naruto stopped only a step away from her. His head tilted back to her. Huh? What are you? His smile was vulpine, and his fangs flashed in the overhead lights. What do you think? Kaneko found herself frozen again as she debated saying it out loud, or digging for information in a more circumspect way. What does she dare to do? Vampires were powerful. Even the weak ones could sometimes tear devils apart like wet paper. Plus you could never quite tell what kind of vampire you were dealing with. Some were ancient yet still looked like teenagers, while others were no older than they looked. Did she dare to ask him outright? Yet there was another thing that made her pause. For he didn't smell like a vampire. Since vampires didn't have a particular scent anyway. No, his scent was distinct, and, had she been a bit older, she might have found herself attracted to it. It was thick, and male. But not human, not devil, not anything like that. It was more. I'm not sure. Kaneko hesitated, then plunged onward. You smell like me. Aw, that's cute. Naruto turned back and his hand found the top of her head. Kaneko's eyes flashed open wide, and her instincts shouted to leap back, but all of a sudden her eyelids drooped, and a light rumble started in her chest. Naruto's hand rubbed the top of her head affectionately, causing little waves of pleasure to soak into her scalp. The blush crept up her pale cheeks as his fingertips hit a spot where her ears would usually be, and the purr became audible even to him. But not exactly accurate, Neko-chan. Naruto smirked and in a voice like a robot on an online test said, "Your answer is incorrect. Please try again." Then he turned around, his hand falling away, and started away again. Kaneko, still in a slight daze, blinked. Before she realized what she was doing, her hand was curling around the hem of his shirt, preventing him from walking away. Naruto glanced back for a second time. Yes, Neko-chan. Her eyes fell, and she tried hard not to look at him. Embarrassment bit keenly. Of course she realized what had just happened now, and she wished that a hole would open up underneath her. Damn, this was awkward. Why did you call me Neko-chan senpai? Kaneko glanced up just in time for his hand to fall on her head again, brushing over her head in a patting motion. She froze up, not knowing how to react as he, but the pleasure returned, and she was unable to hold back the purr wanting to escape. Naruto chuckled at the sound and rubbed harder. Kaneko's eyes drifted close without her command, and she had a terrible urge to bury her face in his chest. Her fingers twitched with the effort it required not to do that. Meanwhile, Naruto was looking down at her with a raised eyebrow. He continued to rub experimentally, making the motions, as though he were petting a cat. In slow hard strokes that, after a few moments, Kaneko leaned into. Her scowl faded, replaced by a small smile, and her blush deepened. Senpai. HM? Want something, Neko-chan? The purring grew louder as Kaneko abruptly lost the fight with her instincts. Naruto blinked in surprise as small hands wrapped around his arm and forced him to apply more pressure. He readily accepted this and rubbed harder. This earned him a small mule from Kaneko as her nose twitched. Naruto sighed, wondering what to do with this happy Nekomata devil hybrid. His eyes slid to the side, making sure no one else was in this section. Unfortunately, there was. A man was approached his row, scanning along the racks. Naruto glanced back to Kaneko and mentally swore. The girl's ears had popped out of nowhere, and her tail swayed lazily behind her. Shit, bad timing. Naruto stopped petting and pinched the back of her neck. Kaneko snapped out of her trance instantly, but barely a fraction of a second later she fell unconscious as he found the nerve bundle with his second pinch. Casting a look backwards, Naruto picked Kaneko, holding her under his arm as he darted back into the women's section. He found Rainer quickly enough. "Ah-chan, I got to leave in a hurry. Our little spy was sent by future girlfriend number 2. His mate's head whipped around and spotted the Nekomata under his arm. "Oh, I see. Well, if you're going back to the house we won't be very long. I found a few more outfits for Ashia, and the girl is upstairs picking out bras and undergarments." She examined the white-haired girl for a second. "So, Grimmery is onto us. At the very least we are on her radar. Whether she thinks we are a threat or not, I'm not sure. Although if I had to guess, she's probably on the lookout for new peerage members. And we stick out like sore thumbs, even if we don't use our powers. She's likely keeping an eye on us to see if we might be worth bringing into her peerage." "I see." Rainer hummed distractedly. "Well, I'll see you at home, I suppose." Naruto nodded. "Yeah. I'll be taking Kaneko into the forest first. That way if one of the peerage comes looking for her they won't teleport right into our base of operations, eh? I'll go to the house right after I've made sure they can't track her." Rainer smirked and leaned in to kiss him. He accepted it quickly, and then drew on his power, envisioning a particular clearing in the forest surrounding the town. In the next instant both he and his burden were gone. "Well, Kushina-san, this is certainly a surprise. To what do I owe the honor?" "Lord Sursages. It is good to see you again after so long. The honor is mine. As for why I'm here, I heard about the upcoming wedding, and wish to present a gift for the bride." "Ah, so even there you heard about it." "My dear cousin thought that he could keep it from me, however my servants are good at what they do. One of them informed me that an old friend's daughter was getting married within the month. How could I miss the opportunity? Indeed, I didn't know we were still friends after what happened." Kushina, the second true heir of Lucifer, and Sursages, the current ruling Satan, stared at each other for a long moment, each sizing up the other, searching for ill intent. However, neither of them found any in the other. And, at last, Sursages smiled and opened his arms. The two old friends embraced. "It is good to see you again, Kushi-chan. How's Minato?" Kushina pulled back, holding him at arm's length. "He's been well. Right now he's out of the house though. He won't be able to make it." She tucked an errant strand of hair behind her ear. Is Graphius still embracing her fetish to the point of fanaticism? "Oh, don't let her hear you say that. I wouldn't dare say it in range of her, but you didn't answer me now, did you?" Kushina slipped an arm around his and they started walking. The two of them with their pale complexions and brilliant red hair looking like brother and sister. Well, she never exactly stopped. "Thought her usual dress has blue accents now instead of silver. I never noticed when she stopped wearing the old one. I guess it's just me being as unobservant as always." Sursages shook his head regretfully. "She didn't smile at me for a week after that." "Ah, the trials of an attentive wife." Kushina elbowed him in the ribs. "Excuse me." "Oh, I never meant you, of course." He ducked his head in mock respect, causing her to laugh. "What's been going on since I left?" Sursages became noticeably more somber. "Not much good, but then again, not all that much bad either. So I suppose I can't complain about recent events. To be honest, I'm glad nothing particularly good has happened. I swear a party requires more paperwork than your average war. Good thing your daughter's wedding is at the Phoenix household." He scowled. "Ah, very lucky." She hummed thoughtfully. "Funny. I thought you'd be happy your little sister is tying the knot with someone, especially a pureblood." Yes. Well, if you've met the man she's marrying you would be skeptical as well. Riser is strong, no questioning that. He's won several rating games, so his status is quite good. He isn't bad looking from the feminine perspective. Or so I'm told by my wife. It's his personality I take issue with." "Quite. Arrogant. Excessively so. Sexist. You have no idea. Kushina glanced to the side as they walked at them into part of the Gremory Gardens. Though they stopped for a moment, looking out over the expansive and well-maintained flower beds. I suppose it's fortunate that you're a good brother then. You will do something to make sure he wises up before the wedding day, won't you? He let out a pained sigh. I'm not entirely sure that's possible. And why not? Because above everything else, he's stubborn. Very stubborn, and from what I've seen he has a very traditional view of women, stemming from the old Devilier. His usual calm demeanor cracked like glass as an angry scowl made it onto his face. It will take something bordering on, dare I say, divine intervention to get that boy to shape up. She blinked at that, and an ever so slight smile made its way onto her face. Perhaps you should call it off then. If he is as you say, I'm sure that your little sister isn't happy with the arrangement. That's not the issue, he muttered. Mother and father arranged the marriage when Rias was barely born yet, and Riza was a young lad himself. It's already been legally set. Only if both Rias and Riza wanted to end it would the contract be rendered void. So you can't do anything. Serzichus gritted his teeth for a moment then answered. I could. Then. But if I do then it will be seen as me playing favors, and my own popularity will drop. Not to mention it would likely anger the Lord and Lady Phoenix, both of which have been friends with the Gremory family for generations. Father would be furious, I'm sure. Besides that, there are economic reasons. The Phoenix Tears are a valuable resource, as you well know. A joining of our two clans through marriage would allow us access to them without paying the usual exorbitant rates. This is your sister Serzichus. You're not supposed to give a shit if she is being mistreated or given a raw deal. I know that, but I am the Crimson Satan. I'm also supposed to put my duties first. And if I use my legal power to dissolve the contract, I'll face anger from many of the remaining pillars. He rubbed at his eyes with his free hand. I just wish that I could be her brother instead of the King of Hell sometimes. Kushina nudged him gently. You could always make the point that Rias doesn't want this to the Phoenix family. Riza may not listen, but if the Lord and Lady Phoenix know just how much she's against it, then they may dissolve it themselves. It's not probable though. They're the ones who originally proposed this match. She went silent for a long time and they started walking again, moving through the garden aimlessly. Serzichus eventually started up the conversation again, directing her attention to the new section of the garden that had been put in since she'd last visited. Then he asked after her husband again, wanting to know what he was up to and if he had made any more breakthroughs on his ceiling. She in turn asked him more about how his parents were and if Grafia was still the same as always. He responded with a rather rude snort with that. Of course she hadn't changed. After that they asked after each other's children. Serzichus told her all about his son, while Kushina told him about Naruto. Serzichus was surprised that she'd had a son he didn't know about, and she explained that it had been after they broke off contact with each other. This in turn led to a fiery debate about whose son was better looking, and had the most natural talent, which one would find the best girl when he was older, and what their most embarrassing moments had been. All was well, until very suddenly the two of them found that they caught up. Granted, it had been almost 4 hours since they'd ended their walk and an additional 2 since they went inside the Gremory estate. But now both of them sat across from each other, well and truly up to date. There was nothing more to talk about without delving into uncomfortable subject matter. Neither was keen on making the conversation awkward, but without someone else entering the equation, there was nothing else for it. Not only that, but neither of them were particularly subtle people. Eventually Kushina felt compelled to break the silence. So, Sir-kun, what are you going to do about your possible brother-in-law problem? A long sigh escaped him. To be perfectly honest, yes. Serzichus picked up a glass of fine wine from the small table next to him. It was almost empty. He swirled the contents for a few seconds, looking into the glass with a solemn expression. Well, if push comes to shove, I will have one of my peerage members fight him for the privilege of marrying Rias. And we both know all of hell would freeze over before Riser, or his whole peerage could defeat even one of my pawns. A sardonic chuckle escaped him. Not that I'd have him fight a mere pawn. Surtur has been restless lately. I'd pit Riser against him. Really? There would be no way any Phoenix called defeat him. He's the clone of the Fire Giant's greatest warrior. He's immune to fire, holy magic doesn't hurt him, and he's stronger than even an ultimate class devil. I don't think I would like fighting him. Riser would kill himself trying. Serzichus huffed loudly. At least it would send a clear message to any other suitors. My Rias Tan is not some living sex doll for some punk of a pureblood to use. I care about her just as much as I care for my own son. Kushina raised an eyebrow, but Serzichus didn't seem to notice. He'd let his head fall back over the chair. He was looking at the ceiling with an aggravated expression she couldn't recall seeing on him in a very long time. I almost wish your son could take her hand, but since the marriage is based off having pure-blood children. Serzichus didn't see the wide smile that spread her lips. If only I could get my parents to see reason. Or, if I could get my hands on that blonde oversized chicken, I could thrash him around until he decided he had bigger fish to fry. She snickered inwardly. You know, there's a way around this. Surzich's froze and slowly raised his head. His eye focused on hers intently. Do tell. Kushina looked away, feigning indecisiveness. Her finger twirled around a lock of hair reluctantly. I don't know, it's pretty sensitive information, Sir-kun. Kushi-chan, please, I'd do anything to get Rias-tan out of this contract, but I don't know how to do it without looking like the bad guy. She hummed as if thinking about it, still not looked at him. But she could feel his eagerness to know. It wouldn't be too hard now. I'm not so sure. Surzicha set down his glass and held both hands in front of him in a pleading gesture. Please, pretty please. I mean, come on, Kushi-chan. I've never asked much of you. Well, I promise not to tell anyone if it's a secret. Just make it so that my sister doesn't have to marry that prick. She glanced at him out of the corner of her eye. Don't make me get down on my hands and knees and beg, damn it. I still have some pride. Kushina sighed in an exasperated way. Okay, fine. She looked back at him, meeting his eyes directly. Do you know about the path of succession for the House of Lucifer? Surzicha nodded quickly. Of course. All the Satans have to know that kind of thing. Mother told me when I was a kid. Then you know that I have approximately 30% of the original Lucifer's power. I'm considered the rightful heir to the family. I just never took the seat for myself. His eye twitched. If you're suggesting that Rias marry your son, it can't happen. You aid yourself that he's only half devil. And even if he's your son, if he's not the true heir, it doesn't matter. You have the most of the original Lucifer's power that anyone has seen in centuries. Kushina leaned forward and smacked Surzicha upside the head. Don't get ahead of yourself. Ouch. Okay. I got it, but why did you mention that then? Because. Rias smiled. My son was born with a little over 50%. He is the true heir of Lucifer. I am behind him by almost half. And no one else in the family has more than 10%. He is the heir to the house. Your sister can marry him because as far as the devil community would be concerned, he is a pureblood. Kushina was about to speak again when a broad smile broke across his face. Surzicha giggled, chuckled, and then finally burst out laughing. She waited for a long moment, then smacked him upside the head again. Boy, snap out of it. He cringed away from her briefly before a smirk reappeared on his face. Mama, I'm not laughing at you. I'm just happy that you actually came up with something that can work. Surzicha rubbed his hands together in a gleeful manner. I'll have to speak to my parents about this. And if they agree, then I'll speak to the Phoenix family and get this agreement nullified. Kushina's smile matched his own. And from that point on, their conversation started up again. This time though, they never ran out of things to discuss. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want a next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. And also check out the other videos that I have created, and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.